Nuclear plants for producing electric power are expected to grow in number and size, since their power costs are becoming competitive with conventional plants burning coal, oil, or gas. Estimates indicate that nuclear facilities will produce 10 million kilowatts by 1970, 150 million kilowatts by 1980, and half of all the electricity in the United States by the end of this century. As with conventional power plants, nuclear plants consume fuel which must be replaced continuously or periodically, depending on the type of reactor facility. Unlike conventional power plants, the spent fuel elements in a nuclear reactor contain unused uranium. These elements must be reprocessed to recover the remaining fuel. During reprocessing, the fuel is separated from highly radioactive fission products, which are produced in the reactor as a result of the chain reaction. The reprocessing procedure recovers the unused uranium and the plutonium, leaving behind the highly radioactive waste, which generates considerable heat. These wastes must be contained permanently to prevent the escape of fission products to the environment. Currently, high-level wastes are stored as liquids in huge underground tanks. Although more than 20 years of experience prove that this is a safe, practical method of interim handling, it has certain limitations. Large quantities of potentially hazardous liquid, which require perpetual surveillance, are relatively near the surface of the Earth, and tanks must be replaced periodically. Several processes have been developed at U.S. Atomic Energy Commission sites to reduce the volume and to solidify the wastes so that they may be disposed of safely and permanently. High-temperature heating, for example, along with additives, can be used to reduce the waste to a solid, stable form. These processes, however, are only treatment steps, and they must be followed by safe and economic disposal. A method for ultimate disposal of waste containers is needed so that fission products can be contained permanently and safely. The use of salt mines for the disposal of solid wastes was suggested by the National Academy of Sciences in 1955. Experience has shown that a salt bed is dry and impermeable to water. It is not associated with usable groundwater sources, and because of its plasticity, fractures formed in the salt will seal or close rapidly. In addition, it has good thermal conductivity to dissipate the heat from the waste containers. Finally, the salt is strong enough structurally so that rooms and corridors within the mine can be kept open by pillars left to support the ceiling. Rock salt deposits exist under 400,000 square miles of the United States and represent some of the few naturally occurring dry environments in the country. Studies on the disposal of high-level wastes in salt mines were initiated at Oak Ridge National Laboratory several years ago as one of several approaches investigated by the Atomic Energy Commission. These tests were concerned with the transfer of heat from the waste into the salt, the effects of pressure, heat, and radiation on rock salt, and the engineering feasibility of waste disposal in a salt mine. A major objective of the program, known as Project Salt Vault, was to demonstrate the equipment and operations required for safe and economic disposal of high-level solid wastes in salt mines. Because such high-level solidified wastes with sufficient heat were not being produced at that time, it was necessary to use a substitute which would simulate future solidified wastes. As a result, irradiated fuel elements from the engineering test reactor in Idaho were utilized as the heat and radiation sources. Project Salt Vault was set up in the 1,000-foot deep mine of the Carey Salt Company at Lyons, Kansas, which was no longer in use. The handling operations and storage techniques were similar to those proposed for an actual disposal facility. An additional objective of Project Salt Vault included the collection of data needed for the design of an actual disposal facility. Inside the mine, a new area was mined for the demonstration. The experiment consisted of 2 fuel assembly arrays located in different sections of the mine. In addition, there was an electrically heated control array and a rib pillar heated by electric heaters in the floor around its base. The canned fuel elements for the demonstration were shipped from Idaho in a special carrier on a trailer. The carrier is placed vertically over the shaft, which extends 1,000 feet below to the experimental area in the mine. When the carrier is in place, the underground crew operates the transporter controls remotely from a safe location. The cans are lowered through the 19-inch diameter shaft into a shielded cask mounted on the fuel can transporter. A check for radiation leakage is made after the transporter doors are closed. Then the crew moves back into the waste shaft room to continue the operation. With the radioactive container safely within the transporter cask, the cask is lowered from the bottom of the shaft and the hoist cable is disconnected. With the transporter now loaded, it moves the fuel can to the experimental area for lowering into a lined and shielded hole. Once the shield is lowered in place over the hole, the crew again departs for safety reasons and lowers the fuel container remotely. The storage hole is 13 feet deep. The steel liner provides 3-fold containment and permits removal of the can. In an actual disposal operation, the hole would not be lined, but would be backfilled with crushed salt after a waste container is inserted. During the 19-month test, the fuel cans were replaced at 6-month intervals with highly radioactive fuel from the reactor to achieve a peak dose to the salt of about 1 billion rads. The temperature of the salt at the center of the arrays was raised to 200 degrees centigrade. Tubes were installed in the holes near the bottom to permit withdrawal of gas samples. Data from about 400 thermocouples provided a 3-dimensional temperature pattern of the entire experimental area. Creep and plastic flow of salt were monitored by a network of leveling pins. Measurements were also taken with floor-to-ceiling gauges, as well as with wall-to-wall convergence gauges. Internal strain gauges were also utilized to obtain data. Radiation dose to the salt was also measured. Specially treated ferrous sulfate dosimeters and radiophotoluminescent glass rod dosimeters within holders were inserted into holes in the floor. Project Salt Vault provided considerable simulated waste handling experience and actual salt flow data. These data, coupled with laboratory and theoretical studies on structural stability of rock salt at elevated temperatures and pressures, are being used to establish the design requirements of an actual disposal facility. In such a facility, the waste containers would be inserted in a hole in the floor and backfilled with crushed salt. After each room is filled with cans, it too would be backfilled with crushed salt. Then, as the salt becomes more plastic due to heating by radiation, the holes and the room will close slowly with compaction of the crushed salt by pressure of the salt and earth above. After all the rooms are filled, the access shaft will be filled with stone and concrete at the bottom, followed by a seal of clay material to prevent entry of water into the mine. Finally, the shaft will be filled to the earth's surface with gravel and sand. The perimeter of the area involved will be fenced in and warning signs posted. Through the Project Salt Vault program, a satisfactory method for the permanent disposal of high-level radioactive waste has been demonstrated, marking another step forward in the use of nuclear production of electric power.